Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to Titan Talk. We are here. We are live. We are glad to see everybody, even if people are getting that dirty laundry, Aaron, and being a little sassy today. And once again, we are happy to see you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. We're here to talk about all things security related. I am Brian. I am not Lieutenant.
He's Master Sergeant. No, Master Chief.
Lord Chief Coop. But we do have our local talent.
Yes. Unfortunately, Coop's out, guys. So he's got some stuff going on. So we're going to respect his privacy. If you guys need anything, Brown's going to love this. But email scheduling at tbcsecurity.com or the lieutenant's email. And so make sure you're reaching out to the correct people for
What's the best thing to do if you have a question? Call the phone.
Yes. Call the phone or email. Yeah. If
Call
it's not something urgent, email. We will get to it. That we try to keep the phone open for, hey, I'm running behind, or hey, I had a family emergency, so we can keep that instant communication open. If it's something, 24 hours out, or something like a suggestion you would like to make for, hey, I would like to have free Wi-Fi at this post now.
That'd be good.
I'm kidding. But you shouldn't need it.
Yeah. Always send the email.
Yes.
And if you run into a real problem, then contact your supervisor. Run up the chain.
And if it's emergency, obviously 911.
Yeah, emergency, right. Yes, I am your off-brand Kirkland Coop today. Kirkland brand Coops.
Kirkland usually is a pretty good, suitable replacement.
Not too bad. Not too bad. I haven't tried their whiskey yet.
Not good. It's not. I don't like their vodka either. Everybody says their vodka's equivalent to Grey Goose. If I were to dabble in the adult beverages, I am a clear liquor fan, so I do like vodka. I'm more of a Tito's fan. I'm not sponsored, which I wish I was.
Not yet.
Not
Shout
yet.
out to Tito's.
Yeah, Tito's.
I was in Houston for 11 years, and we did the company I was working at. They did like a conference thing. And
is that where Tito's is based out of?
Out of Texas, yeah.
Oh,
I think Austin, but they sponsored some of. So 2 cases of Tito showed up for the event. I think 1 bottle went to the conference, and the rest went back to the agency.
Yes,
I was working at.
Yes.
Cameron.
Just go ahead and handle that through email, Cameron. The podcast chat's probably not the best place.
No, yeah. I mean, thanks for.
There's people that watch us that don't work for us.
Yeah, but hey, if something's going on, then always shoot an email, make a call, run it up the chain of command. We'll get a hold of you. We always get a hold of everybody. So
yeah, just emails are the best. If it's not something that's urgent, if it's a scheduling thing, at TBC Security.
We'll take care of you.
Yes, the quarter zips. I got grandfathered in. We don't necessarily have these for everybody.
Look at the shoulder. I mean,
that's
it's a little bit of a patch there. Yeah. When I was like, that looks great.
They've been repaired twice.
Oh.
Instructor Sparks' wife is a doll, and she is very good with the sewing machine. Unfortunately, the individuals on the street had to make me ruin my clothing when I was in the field. So.
Yeah, it's from rescuing all those kids crawling through the buildings and everything
exactly
that you do.
It's under barbed wire.
I'll get you. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm just throwing children on my back.
On the back.
Just carrying them across the fiery lake. No,
the police officer, the firefighters, like it's that McFarlane again.
Yeah, he's back. And
he's back to save the children.
This bad signal in the air. He must be out there.
What would your signal?
Where is she?
What would your signal look like if they had a signal for you?
That's a really good question. I don't know.
Man.
Just some overweight balding guy just standing there.
I got it. The Golden Gate.
Yes. The Golden Gate.
It is just shining.
I'm going to take a picture
and
bring in a picture of my gate, which is it's
golden.
Just cast iron black.
Golden.
Now there's no gold. My badge is.
Oh, very nice. Yes. Very nice. Well, today, and of course, we'd love to hear your comments and questions as we're talking today, but we are talking today about the struggles or the opportunities, whatever you want to call it. We're talking about security for property managers and property management companies. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. This is who you are. I'm not going to try to change anything going on here, but property management companies. So we're going to talk about it from a couple different perspectives today.
Yes.
One is from obviously as a security officer working on properties that can be apartments, that can be sometimes there are construction, yeah, but that's more along the lines. I want to stick to like property management, so like apartment complexes, condominiums, townhomes, things of that nature.
Yeah, assisted living, stuff
assisted living, yeah, specifically property management. So let's start there. What are some of, right off the top, just a 10,000 foot view, what does working as a security officer who's constantly on their phone during a podcast look like?
Sorry.
I know. I'm not dealing with the scheduling stuff that you guys are in the question.
There's a few different things, but
that was Baker. He's like, "Where is my?" No, I'm just kidding.
He's like, "What the hell?"
I was promised shoelaces.
Damn it!
I don't know. I'm not picking on you, really.
Yes, he is.
So from the 10,000 foot view, security officers, obviously working properties, like we mentioned, the apartment complex, condos, senior. What are some of the unique challenges or things that people should look out for as a security officer working on property management?
So really there's differences and there's similarities. Obviously there's unique differences depending on the type of property management you're working for. With the assisted living or any kind of medical facility, you're going to deal with certain types of property management. Sometimes that's government funded. So there's different rules and regulations, but really to kind of blanket statement, I guess the 10,000 foot view is make sure that you're following your SOPs, because there are do's and don'ts for specifics or for different properties, but there's also similarities. So most of your apartment complexes are going to want frequent visits through stairwells and garages. We can actually touch base on this a couple of weeks ago, where the do's and don'ts of apartment complexes. That's one of our biggest property manager clients that we deal with, just because a lot of the other ones, again, they're either going to be funded through the government, or they're going to be special one-offs, or they're going to be loss prevention companies that we work with.
Okay.
So when it comes to property management specifically, it's going to be, like you said, those residential or those hotels, those apartment complexes, big facilities where there's a lot of people in one area.
Right. So what are some of the things that, so I'd like to take it from the officer standpoint, as an officer, because I think it's important to understand when you're out there, it can probably feel like you're alone. But in the sense, it's important to think, what is the person that I have been hired, who's the person who picked up the call and said, I need security?
Right.
What are they thinking about for what we are providing a service for?
So depending on where they're at, if they're downtown, you're going to look for a lot of vagrant activity.
Right.
They want their tenants to feel safe coming and going. And so one of the biggest things is you're going to look for people piggybacking. So it's a common courtesy where people will hold the door for somebody. I'm guilty of it. To almost to an awkward extent, where the guy's like probably far enough away I could shut the door, but I'll stand there and hold it because I want to be courteous, but then I also feel bad because I feel like I'm rushing the person. So then they're like, oh, okay, thank you. And they start kind of, put a little pep in their step. But things like that, or things that you wouldn't think would be something we don't want to happen, but it is, if that makes sense. We prefer that people don't piggyback. We want them to scan in each time. That shows most of those apartment complexes or property management companies have a system that tracks all that, so they can see the frequency of when people are coming in and out. So then they know, so they can use that data to then kind of specialize their security. So if it's a patrol response, a lot of those are patrol response. So it's just like a quick call, hey, this is a problem I need to fix, versus having a guard on site there for the entire shift. And so those scans will give them good data to then go and say, hey, we need you guys here at these times and these times, because that's when our most traffic is obviously going to and from work. So, your typical window from, 6 to 8 in the morning, from 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 in the afternoon, there's going to be a lot of traffic in and out. And then on the overnights, you're going to want to make these people feel at ease, depending on where they're at. Again, we are contracted all over Kansas City. We're in other states, and we're typically used in parts of town where either the police presence isn't strong enough to deter criminal activity, or there's just a lot of people in a small area, so you're going to get some bad apples there. And so that's where we then just use our prior experience with other vendors to say, hey, this is what we think is going to be a problem. Again, it's the vendors. It's the tenants piggybacking each other, holding doors for people, because sometimes they don't know who that person is. Right. And so they could be letting someone in that doesn't live there.
Right. And Justin mentioned in the chat perimeter breaches.
Yes, perimeter breaches. We just actually got a new client not too long ago that had a really nice automatic gate that kind of kept their vehicles safe. And when we got there, the gate opens this way. So if you can see, it opens. It's like a what do they call this? Pocket doors.
Right.
Yeah. At my farmhouse. Sorry. My family's farmhouse.
Here we go.
One of my favorite parts of the house is the pocket doors when I was a kid because they disappear into the wall.
Right.
So it's a horizontal. The gate opens. Well, when we were there, the gate was open like this. It wasn't supposed to be. Someone drove in there, ran
right
the car.
through, yeah.
And so that was a perimeter breach.
Okay.
That the previous company didn't catch. And I won't say any names, but they're like, hey, we want you guys to. They actually said everything's clear, all good, and so they didn't catch that stuff. And those are things that are going to be hot ticket items for a property manager. The one that I met with was very specifically. We went to the other side of the building, and there's one other gate there. There's 2 gates total. Both were smashed open.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so at that point, they're like, hey, we need to reevaluate. The
either existing
quality,
existing security company, or
whether they may not have one at all,
or they may be a point. It's like, look, and I've heard this. Will police actually put, and if you can't talk about this, fine, but will police actually put certain phone numbers or places on not a blacklist, but like a lower priority because they get so many calls that they can't get to them?
No, not officially. I mean, it's kind of the boy who cried wolf scenario.
Okay.
Police are always going to respond to calls.
Right.
And so people that think they don't, I'm not saying you're saying that, but just
no.
When people say like, oh, they're not going to respond anymore, no, that's not true.
Okay.
They will. From being in law enforcement and knowing a lot of people in law enforcement, those guys do their job for the right reasons.
Right.
They will always come help you when they can. There's going to be times where they're busier than others that have to prioritize calls. Yes, but no.
But there's got to be a point from a property management standpoint, like, look, there's only so many times we can call the police and have them. Again, they have to get out there when they can, but sometimes there's a big difference between someone's on site,
of course,
or like a security company like ours. We can.
Perfect example is we're going to be there for property damage, either immediately from being on site, or we're going to be there for property damage from patrol services.
Right.
I would say probably more often than PD would because they're short officers right now. KCPD is roughly around 300 or so officers down. St. Louis is like closer to 800.
Yeah,
and so
that's a lot to cover.
There's mandated overtime. The guys are doing everything they can. But when you have 10 calls come in and 8 of them are property crimes and 2 of them are homicides, you're going to go take care of the homicides first.
That makes sense.
And that's what we would want them to do. You know, if you're in the situation where you or a loved one's in imminent danger, I don't think you're as worried about the broken gate at a place that one has insurance for it and all that. Not to say that that's not a crime that needs to be addressed.
But if they have to,
that's where we come in.
Right.
It's not ideal that we're down law enforcement officers, but that's where security can kind of come in and help, and that's where we work with KCPD or KCK PD, local law enforcement agencies. They, not to toot our own horn, but they're not able to do as much off-duty gigs because of how short-staffed they are.
We have a great relationship with
I'd say
every city.
Pretty much any major police department you call around here is going to recommend that someone looking for extracurricular, or extra
help, support.
Yes, they would recommend calling us.
Okay, so from the on the street level, so what kind of things do you encounter from like apartment? Let's talk about apartment complexes that are different than we do Union Station or some maybe a more commercial kind of work. And what's the mindset you should be in?
So when it comes to residences and scenarios of that nature, domestic violence is always a big hot topic.
Yeah.
Just because a lot of these places are downtown with a lot of bars. You start in that, you mix in alcohol and partners that are mad with each other. You're always going to know that could be a call you're going to take. I'd say majority of my calls as a patrolman for Titan was noise complaints and domestic violence situations.
So I've heard on the patrol, on the being over here on the in our monitoring center, our 5 diamond certified monitoring center, which is a big deal actually. But I'll hear these calls come in and they'll get that. They'll be like, hey, there's someone's making a noise.
Yeah, Unit 208 keeps pounding. And so they do that.
There's somebody here we don't recognize.
Yep, and we want those calls. You know, we want those. People pay a lot of money to feel safe at their apartment, their where they're living.
Right.
And so it's we if you feel, we've said this before in other podcasts, if your gut is telling you something's off, it probably is. So don't hesitate to call us. I'd rather us have a guy show up or a couple of guys of our patrol officers show up and it not be anything than us not show up at all and someone be hurt. And so I have vivid memory of multiple domestic violence calls I showed up on where You could tell they were hesitant to call because the RP, because they're like, hey, I don't want them to know, and we'll never divulge that information.
No.
We just simply say,
those are
hey,
some of the most dangerous you can show up for, right?
domestic violence is the number one cop killer.
Yeah.
And I'm shortly behind, I would say, security companies that offer the services like us. Not a lot of people have the residential areas that we do.
Right.
But there needs to be some comfort in you guys, those of you that are watching this that either aren't in security or live in an apartment complex. There's someone that may not be able to reach out for help for themselves, and so you could be the saving grace there. So please, domestic violence is very near and dear to a lot of us that work in this industry because we've dealt with it. So near and dear in the sense that we are advocates for helping people that are in those situations. We try to be. And it's not easy for some people to come forward about those. And so we really promote to you guys, please reach out, whether it be us or local law enforcement. And it's our policy that if we do have a confirmed domestic violence call or nature of, that we contact the local authorities as well, whether that be KCK or KCMO, just so we have enough resources there so we can, diffuse those situations and hopefully get some out of a bad spot. So that's probably one of the biggest ones we do. Then you have your regular noise complaints. You have open air drug use, so you can smell marijuana.
Probably people trying to break in.
Yeah, we have some of those, not as frequently, just because. Well, I don't know.
I guess apartments would be a little bit different. Like a business is closed at night, whereas people are going to be there.
We used to take care. I won't say a name. But we used to take care of a residential area that was encompassed like hundreds of homes.
Yeah.
So basically a huge neighborhood, and we were contracted from them, and so we would get break-in calls for those all the time.
Right.
Because someone would be lingering around the property, and they would call for us to come out there. And it's a 50-50 shot of whether it's, just a neighbor checking on a neighbor or someone, with some ill will, or ne'er-do-well is what some people call ne'er-do-well. So someone that, is and so, it's no issue for us to show up and just say, hey, do you have identification?
Right.
Can we make sure you live here? It's my neighbor.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't have
check and
they don't have a bunch of clothing that hides their identity and a crowbar, and we're like, oh yeah, you're good. Go ahead. Work on your neighbor's gutters. I'm here to help them
with their tire.
Yeah, I'm here to fix their gutters.
What's their name?
2:00 in the morning.
Todd. Well, so then so it sounds like so for property management, so they're property managers who are in charge of these properties.
Yes. Those are going to be more contacted through the supervisors.
Right, but it seems to me that when you're so taking some things into consideration, so I'm thinking about, okay, so some things have occurred, what do I need to think about?
Sure.
It sounds like training's a big deal because,
of course.
So for us, we do more training than anybody.
Yep.
Up to 40 hours of training with classroom time,
at a minimum.
Yeah, defense, and active training. So and ongoing
tactics.
Training. Yeah, defensive tactics.
DT.
I'm getting there. I'll keep it on your side of the street. I'll just try to figure it out.
All right.
Apparently, I got signed up for that. Someone signed me up for that next month.
I saw that
with Extreme Prejudice. I think was denoted there.
Was there any comments about your beard?
Something like that. I think. So training must be a big deal. So I guess an important thing to ask when you are looking at security companies,
I'm
and
as well.
I know I saw Dylan jump in there. Hello, Dylan. Thanks for joining today. And we'd love to hear everybody's, whoever's watching, or if you're watching this later, leave a comment on your experiences with security.
Yes, just leave names of properties out.
Yeah, try to keep things generic. But and if you want to see more of this topic, if you're watching this, we get a lot of people who watch this that don't work for Titan.
Yeah.
So we do the podcast twice a week, so you'll want to subscribe. You want to subscribe and hit the bell so that you can get. We start a little early today, so you want to do that in case, because we're going to be covering a lot of these topics. So
yes.
Training is a big deal. So they probably need to ask what kind of training do you put? Because we have the simulator where they can walk through scenarios and allows them to choose. So talk a little bit about the training that's related to that and how it goes in.
Yeah, so we do FATS training, which is day 3 of training, where we spend a couple of hours or a good portion, about a half of the day, with your classmates going through scenarios on what a typical entry-level officer will see in the day, or a day in the life of an entry-level security officer when it comes to retail, or we have some apartment scenarios. Some of them are to where there's baseball bats being wielded on an individual, and what you do in those situations. And so those do apply, unfortunately, to some areas that we work in. So you need to be.
You never know what's behind that door.
No, you need to be rehearsed for those, and so we'll.
Is
walk
it like
you through
rehearsal?
Those.
When you got.
Pretty much.
Leon there with his clipboard.
Yeah.
And like upstage
actually,
left.
Back when I went through training, Leon was my instructor. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. He used to be the angry bald instructor, but now he's just the angry bald chief. No,
chief. Yeah.
But no. So Instructor Sparks will run you guys through. If you're an unarmed officer, he's going to put you through some scenarios where you're going to find yourself in an unarmed post, which is going to be again those. Sorry, I got a tickle. It's going to be one of those vague brunk. It's a Yoshi sound.
There's a boop, boop. I will mention this, by the way. I'm glad you mentioned this because if you're thinking about getting into the security industry and you're interviewing with a company, you need to ask about training because what you don't want to have happen is you show up, you sign some paperwork, they have you watch a video for 4 hours.
This is not like other security
and then
companies.
you get deployed, you get out on the street, and then you may be the low person on the totem pole, not getting the best assignment, and next thing you know, you're having a knock on the door, and there is somebody with a baseball bat. Yeah. So training is really, really critical, and that was one of the reasons why Ryan, our president, founded the Titan, is because he saw, hey, there is a huge gap between officers, security officers, and the training gap is enormous, and so it was a huge priority. So please keep talking about how that's important.
That's one thing where
to ask is so when you're hiring a company, you need to ask about that.
Sure. Well, in any business, you're going to evaluate kind of your practices and your procedures, and never once has anyone ever really, I mean, not that I could think of, has attempted to try and slim down our training product, because that's something that we'll go in front of a client and take a big flag and stick it in the ground and say, hey, this is one thing we do better than anybody else.
Yeah. All I hear is expanding and growing the training all the time.
Because when it comes to this job, and depending on what position you're in, and I mean, any position, any site that we work has potential for danger. And so to not be trained or to not prepare yourself for those scenarios or situations is you're just setting yourself up for failure. Yeah. And when it comes down to something like that, it's not failure of, hey, we didn't get this task completed. Hey, someone got hurt, and so that's, so that is the gravity of the necessity for that. And so again, that's why no one's ever said, hey, can we cut, Thursday down to 6 hours and said it. No. It's just it's a very
training time.
Yes, this is what we do.
They're not ready to go out until they're ready to go out.
And if someone needs to spend more time going through scenarios, or if someone needs to kind of recycle back and say, hey, I think you need to revisit this portion of the hiring or the NEO process, then we've never had any pushback from that from the powers that be around here.
So question, I'm thinking from a property manager who's calling, let's say they got a break in, they make a call. What's it look like when we get on site? We haven't started working with folks. What should they look for a security company to evaluate their property? What should the walkthrough look like? And if they're not doing these things, what would be a red flag? Like, hey, we need to make sure we're talking about these things or those things.
Well, for one, if they're willing to talk all that business over the phone and not actually get eyes on the site.
So going on site's important.
Yeah. So if I'm a property manager and I call a security company and they're like, hey, yeah, we'll definitely take care of you. Here's our price. I would be like, well, you don't really know what I need.
Yeah, the size of the property.
Yeah, like I said, that's why it's really hard for me to put a blanket statement and say every apartment complex is the same, because they're not.
They're all different.
There's different entry points and egress points. And so what we do when I walk a property is I get there, obviously introduce myself and just say, hey, what are some main things you guys are dealing with? I usually have a pretty good idea just because I've been doing it long enough, and that's not giving myself credit any more than anybody that's done a job.
Experience is experience.
Yeah, and so I'll just say, judging by where you're at, you're right by a highway, so you're going to have a lot of break-ins because they can get in, grab stuff, and leave immediately.
Yeah.
So you need
There's
to
a portal over here. I see some demons flying out. You might want to get that checked out.
When it's really easy to get onto a mass transit area or like a large highway nearby, there's going to be more activity because they can get in and out quickly.
Right.
If you have a better, border, if you have a better perimeter setup,
right? Yeah.
You're going to have more success at keeping people out. It's physics, science. It's just the way it works.
Oh, don't go.
Not that you need barbed wire.
Physics and science.
Yeah,
up in
you don't
here.
need like a castle with a moat. But if you have hard points of entry and hard points of exit, then you're going to have a much more secure facility. I mean, just look at how the military does forward operating bases. There's usually one way in and one way out.
One way in.
And so, there's a reason for that. There's science behind it. And so you're
not always the most convenient for
No, and so
residents.
That's the thing that a lot of property managers try to balance is I don't want this to look like Fort Knox.
If it's a big property, then people have to enter from multiple places.
I don't want this to be Fort Knox. Well, and there was some retail facilities.
What's the passcode? 4321.
Right? There's
2020.
There's some retail facilities in other states in America that have gone to like long rifle armed guards that are walking like a penitentiary up top. For retail, and people don't want to go shop there because of how crazy. I won't say any names, but yeah. There's been a hard approach on both sides. I think what
they're walking into the
gap.
Like
to do is
one
find
coming
a happy,
through.
Yeah, exactly. Target's here, and you're just like, oh, okay.
Some guy.
Yeah.
You better move.
Yeah,
that's 50% off. You know that, right?
He's got a pair of Old Navy shorts. Go ahead and take them out.
Those don't work on you, sir. I would not wear those.
Yeah,
put them down.
But
we provide a different level of service.
Yes, we try to kind of meet you in the middle and go, hey, I want this place to be inviting. I want guests or tenants to feel comfortable. But I also want them to know that there's a sense of security here, that our guys are going to take care of business if something does arise. Society today, I mean, just look at the world that we live in, man. There's civil unrest around this entire green and blue rock that we're floating on. And to have someone sit here and say, I can solve all your problems security-wise, this is not true. But there's a way you can do it to where people feel safe, but they also feel like it's an inviting environment. And so that's something property managers, that's what they're tasked with.
Yeah.
Our job is to help facilitate that in any way we can.
You know what it really does? And I see Thompson's note about if you experience... my wife and I have been watching a lot of horror movies lately, so it's like,
it's that time of year.
We just saw 1408 with John Cusack.
It's a great movie.
You know that one?
First time?
I'd never seen it.
I love that
That's
movie.
a trip, man. But if you find yourself running into supernatural entities, just do what you got to do.
Yes.
So
I don't have much advice for that.
At the end of the day...
Exorcism, maybe?
Maybe. At the end of the day, for property managers, you've got enough on your plate.
Yes.
And you need to work with a company that you don't have to worry about. You get taken care of. Your stuff, your questions get responded to. You've got people who report into you regularly.
I have a boss that has an extremely high bar for response time and for being transparent with expectations and services.
Frankly, I think that Leon is one of our greatest assets for our customers, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely.
The way that he deals with customers is amazing.
Yeah, and so I've mentored underneath him for probably over a year now. And so I've taken a lot of
things
like
that he does. 3 months.
Yes, at least. I've taken a lot of things that he does really well and try to run with it myself. And one thing is being transparent, open, and keeping that line of communication open. There's not a single client or person of the supervisory level that can call Leon that he won't answer the phone. Usually off the first ring.
That's fair.
He's a maniac, but he instills that in his guys underneath him, and that's something that kind of sets us apart.
Never picks up my calls.
Well, he has to like you first.
Never once picks up my calls.
He'll address that with you because he does not like people saying he doesn't answer his phone because of how much he does.
I'm kidding.
Yes. But I still think it's funny. I'm going to tell him you said it.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, so as far as responsiveness and, like I said, being transparent, keeping that communication open. We have clients that are like, hey, I know you guys aren't going to be Superman, but we want you to deter this and we want you to address things this way. And we're like, hey, as long as it's ethical, moral, and legal, we will do everything we possibly can to make that happen for you. And we're again, to my own, we're pretty good at it.
So a couple of things is one, from a standpoint, it's like, look, if you have perimeter breaches, you're having a number of incidents, you're having to call the police a lot, you do have an option. You can look at security companies.
Sure.
You need to be looking at
us.
If they come out. Yeah, I mean, obviously we love to work with people, but we have a certain criteria too.
Of course,
we will. It's important who you say no to, also. But
absolutely.
So you need to look at, make sure that they won't just give you a quote over the phone. Make sure they come out and you meet with them. You shake some hands.
Yeah.
They walk your property. They have to
you
know
need to get
what they're
eyes
protecting.
on site,
right?
To really understand what that client needs. Because again, this isn't a dig on property managers. There's a reason they hire us for their security needs, because that's not their field. They're good at getting people to come live at this, this complex or however that works.
When you're looking for an expert in the field, it's that aspect.
Yeah.
Do they get you back to you? Do they meet with you?
We may find things that they're like, hey, this. Our garage keeps getting broken into. I'm like, well, does it ever lock down? Well, no. Well, that's, maybe we need to address
around
that.
the same time every night? Well, I want to bring that up, by the way, too. There's another aspect because I'll just be honest. It's almost prohibitively expensive to have even two people 24/7 on a property. And what I mean by prohibitively expensive is that's somebody there 24-hour coverage for a specialty person is a lot. Yeah. So and we have clients that do that. We have clients that pay a lot of money for a lot of good security and they get their money's worth. But the point is, there are those aspects where if you have 100 plus 200 units in a complex, you can't have enough manpower. You're going to any company go bankrupt covering that perfectly. So if there's that thing of like, hey, this particular fence every night and it's different times. So one of the things that we offer, and this is interesting because we can do a combined service and it works pretty well.
What's the word you're looking for?
It's virtual officers. Yeah, we have blended services where, and this is something you can ask security companies. And I want to address this because property managers, we find a lot of times they go, I didn't know that.
Sure.
So if you're thinking like, wow, I can't I've got 200 units.
Yeah.
I can't afford 6 figures a month or something for 4 people to cover everything.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
So, but what we could do is we could install what we call virtual officers at key points for coverage.
Yep.
With a response. So you can still have an officer and some response, and we have AI analytics. It picks it up in that particular area, and you're able to have immediate response. It's very cost effective. We do that a lot, right? Where we can get right there when we get some sort of a notice.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. To kind of brag on our monitoring side or our dispatch side, we see emails almost to the where they're becoming like white noise. So sorry if I don't always congratulate our dispatchers on an arrest. We call it an arrest when they locate, when they clear out, or I'm probably speaking out of turn here. One of the monitoring guys would be able to better explain it because I'm just a meathead on the operations side. But we're constantly, you see it, we're constantly getting notifications that our dispatchers caught another bad guy. Let's just put it.
We've had over 28 arrests this year.
Yeah, of them seeing something. So a camera alert will pop up. And again, I'm probably butchering this, but basically they're told, hey, this could be a bad guy. They look into it, they find it, and then they locate and notify authorities, whether that be police department or security or Titan, and say, hey, we got a bad actor.
You're right.
And he's at this part of the property. And then, some of these opportunities they have talk down where they can say, hey, you in the red shirt, you need to leave now. So
here's
it's
a great
little
example.
more personal. It's not just you need to leave.
Just a couple of weeks ago, on an apartment complex, we had some dude comes up on the video monitoring side, and they had recognized that this has been happening. They didn't do the talk down. We had a patrol response associated with the project, like with the client, and there's a video clip. I got to put it up. Our officers are sprinting down. Mm-hmm. They get the guy. Police come. They call the property management company told us that we probably saved them over $10,000 in costs because they've been stealing copper from the AC units. And they said it's been like 3 weeks of trying to get this guy. Yeah. They started working with us. We got him like right after having VOs up, the virtual officers, and it was a combination. They got the alert, and we got one of our guys sprinting down the road, and then the police show up because we call our officers to call the police, right away, and save them over $10,000 worth of because we got them on camera.
Our guys are on it,
which was awesome. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah,
you can have that response.
It's a pretty cool. It's a pretty cool approach that we've been taking over the last couple of years. I think security as a whole is starting to take this blended approach. Where,
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because people were saying, we're going to lose boots on the ground because technology, and actually the recipe for the most success is a combination of the two.
Right.
Without enforcement of guys on the ground, the cameras are only cameras, and without the cameras telling us where bad stuff is, the guys on the ground are not. They're having a hard. They're going to be better dispatched to locations where we need them more.
Yeah. They're 24/7 unblinking eyes.
Yes. And so
we can't be everywhere all at once.
One hand washes the other. The cameras tell us where to go. The guys go enforce the rules.
It's yes and.
Yes.
We have these units that are a bunch of metal, but don't chase. We're not we're not the T1.
Yes, the T1000. Dun dun.
What was the one in RoboCop? The what were the unit?
Believe it or not, I saw that one time when I was a kid.
I can't remember the unit designations in RoboCop.
The T1000 I like.
Yeah, that's Terminator, but
and he's actually a cop.
Right.
Or he's a motorcycle cop, but he's not really.
Well, he's not really a motorcycle. He's a
mirror
goo,
image.
An evil goo that became a motorcycle cop.
Goo.
But I was. Let's see here. We have a question from Joe. Question about the mobile units. Will there ever be a time where a mobile unit and a live guard will be on the same post? So that's what we're talking about, Joe. Is
Well, he might be saying like at the same time throughout the entirety of the shift.
Well, I mean, sure, it depends. So here's what the
Depends on the
mobile,
client's needs.
here's what what the virtual officers do is a lot of times we have schedules. So, between 8 a.m. and like 5 p.m., you may not need them on because you've got an officer there.
Right.
You've got
Right.
eyes and ears.
Yeah, it's usually one or the other, though, to be honest.
And then,
Until
but
you
from
need boots
overnight,
on. Yeah.
maybe like 7 a.m. to 3 a.m., something like that.
Some
And so
overlap,
there is some overlap. And or if there are large properties like the one we did the other night, that can
Right.
also be a thing. So to answer your question, Joe, yeah, of course. I mean, if people want virtual officers and like parking lots are sometimes, and then maybe increased times. Hey, we're seeing a lot, or catalytic converters.
Yep.
It could be during the day or night. It depends. And so we can set the schedules. They can change it. So yes, that can happen, and they complement each other.
Well, and that's one thing that
Good question, Joe.
One thing we try to do is be flexible and understand. Again, I've said it probably 3 times now. Is every property and scenario is different, and so for us to say this is the only way we handle this, we would be just working our way out of business.
Yeah, well,
we're not flexible. But we are. Whereas, like,
Ryan's like 10 years ahead too.
Yeah,
he was talking the other day about some we're not doing it, so I won't bring it up. But some let's call it aerial options.
Yes,
very interesting stuff.
I've heard talk of that.
Yeah, it's very cool. So good question, Joe. Appreciate that. One more thing is, can you all talk about, and we'll probably wrap up here in just a few minutes, but can you all talk about how to approach a domestic situation, employee's significant other refuses to leave employee's vehicle in parking lots. That's really specific. So a domestic situation.
Yeah, I'm reading this here.
An employee's significant other refuses to leave the vehicle in the parking lot is on. I mean, then it'd probably be call the police. I mean,
yeah, you're gonna want to alert local authorities because they're gonna want to get somebody with medical training out to get that person checked out. So.
Thank you, Joe.
Diffuse as best you can.
I mean, that sounds like a very
really
difficult
specific,
situation.
yeah.
I mean, if somebody is in a car, then I would imagine that we would go out and then we would do our best and then we would escalate to the police when necessary, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So the answer is call the police.
Yep.
And if you're working at a business, I'll say this: if you have Titan protecting your business, one of the things we do, which is really cool, is we'll just walk people to their cars.
Yeah.
If people don't feel safe at night, maybe they're working late when they need to be escorted to the vehicle, or maybe they're concerned about, let's say you do have a significant other and there is a domestic abuse. I mean, let me say this real quick about domestic abuse. I'm not an expert, but you got to look this up and be careful. But the thing is, it escalates. People talk about, and it starts, but it escalates rapidly.
Yeah,
that's one of the statistics.
Yeah, 0 to 100 really quick.
And these people that are in these situations can become extremely obsessive and crazy. So if, let's say they're working at their job, and they're like, "Hey, I got some crazy text or something.
Yeah.
I
my ex
don't
is
feel
stalking me.
right.
You
I don't
walk
feel
me to my
safe
car. Yeah,
going to my car." So if that happens, our officers will go out. We'd follow the procedures. And in your particular question, there, biscuit proof. Then we would walk you out, and if it need to be escalated, the most important thing is stay safe, be safe. I mean, if somebody's on drugs, that's not safe. It doesn't matter what the situation is.
That's why
that's
you need
not
to get
safe.
somebody medically trained to handle that.
Because they're not in the right mind anymore. That's not like, hey, can you get out of the car? Oh, sure. I'm just having a bad day. It's more like,
no thanks.
If they're twitching, keep on walking. I think that's in the handbook somewhere. So this has been a good podcast. We've been for a while here. Thank you for your questions, everybody. Again, if you have any experience or questions, if you're a property manager and you're watching this and you like some more information about what can I do, or experiences you have. If you're stuck on something, you can leave a comment. You can reach out to us on our website. It's linked in the description. We'd really love it if you gave us a like on this video if it's been helpful, if you've been entertained or informed. Share it with some people who might need to know it. A lot of people know this too. If you subscribe, there's a little bell. We go live twice a week, so hit the bell, because you don't want to miss it. We talk about this stuff. Usually on Mondays, it's more business related, and then on Fridays we just try to have some fun. So
We try
who
to
knows what's going to happen on Friday?
Well.
We might be starting to do some giveaways here eventually too, so that could be kind of fun. So keep an eye. Thank you,
get
everybody.
Back into the shout out of the week too.
Shout out of the week, yeah. That would be good.
So,
I think there was a shout out on somebody who rescued somebody from somebody smoking meth in a car. Or, no, I'm just kidding.
Maybe
a little bit of a callback.
That does happen quite a bit.
You got the weather up?
Yeah, 64. Radar Ryan. That's what I was calling broadcasting.
Okay, let's hear the Radar Ryan. We got Radar Ryan coming up live.
It's gonna be a scorcher. No, 64 today. So that's that's where we're all in long sleeves.
Got that cool weather.
Yep, 70s the next couple of days, and then flirting with 70 up until the weekend. So pretty much right around 70.
You want to try that again into the microphone?
Can you not hear me?
I'm just kidding.
You try it again.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So we're in the state. Yeah, it looks really
here's my
nice and cool. But we're not hitting freezing yet overnight.
No. Actually,
not for a couple weeks.
The radio said this morning, yes, into tomorrow we're getting close. We're getting down to 40
the 40s
tonight.
or something like that.
Yeah, but then it's going to pop back up to 70 during the day.
I saw something around like beginning of November. That's when we start to.
I got my banana trees cut down in time. If those freeze, they don't come back next
banana
year.
trees. So we got. Hold on a second. So we got. You got some mangoes up in there?
No, just bananas.
You got a fruit orchard. You have an orchard,
leaves.
don't you?
I have a couple fruit trees.
You got a fruit. We got an orchard here on
cherry tree,
the McFarland
apple
farm.
tree, pear tree.
Oh, that'd be good.
And then one other.
Do you guys do this? Okay, so for fall, you hitting the apple pie, the cherry pie. You doing the whole thing for the holidays?
Absolutely.
Oh, we might need to talk about that.
We might have to.
Cherry pie is my favorite. When I do my birthday dinner, I like a steak. I like cherry pie.
Cherry pie.
Caesar salad with the sardines. I like strong flavors.
Yeah,
the whole
Caesar
thing.
salad with sardines. I don't actually like the sardines in it, but
that's the
I
way
like
it's
a good Caesar
the original.
salad.
The OG is with sardines, I think.
I think they use they like grind them up.
Yeah, I mean you don't just put whole sardines, but you put
That's
them
what
in
you
the.
said. That's what I heard you
Is
say
that what
into
you?
the microphone.
Is that what you say?
I like whole
what you thought?
sardines with my Caesar.
Well, thank you everybody. We hope that you enjoyed the podcast today.
Yep.
And
See you guys Friday.
we'll see you on Friday.
Take care, guys.